Diabetes is the condition that afflicts individuals who cannot make or respond to the hormone insulin. People diagnosed with diabetes in the early 20th century would usually die within 2 years. The condition afflicted mostly children in a heart-wrenching way. Parents with diabetic children would put them on a strict low-carbohydrate diet to help them live longer, but they would still die from starvation or diabetic coma. The discovery of insulin allowed for the treatment of diabetes. But even now, insulin remains expensive regardless of technological developments for several reasons. A large amount of insulin is needed for each patient, sometimes even for life. Increased demand from a larger population and the rise of autoimmune disorders and the epidemic of obesity. Collusion between pharmaceutical companies, health insurers and healthcare providers, and patents and regulatory obstacles that prevent the creation of a genetic version of insulin. It is hard to believe that an early insulin patent sold for $1, because today, by a process called evergreening, pharmaceutical companies extend the life of their more recent insulin patents with small incremental changes in order to retain royalties and stifle competition. The situation has come to a point in which diabetic patients have sued pharmaceutical companies for running a scheme to keep the price of insulin high. In summary, insulin patents went from being sold for $1 to being accumulated by profit-seeking corporations. But not all hope is lost. Independent scientists who call themselves biohackers are looking for new ways to make insulin by applying new synthetic biology techniques in creative ways.
Hi, I'm Patrick Daslish. I'm one of the co-founders of Counterculture Labs here in Oakland. We are a hackerspace for biotechnology and trying to come up with a novel, patent-free methodology for producing insulin. A lot of the intellectual property, a lot of the patents are sort of locked up by 3 pharmaceutical companies right now. So insulin was the very first genetically engineered drug on the market in 1982, and there's still no generic insulin available. We're essentially taking the 2 halves of insulin and producing them separately, but we're attaching protein interaction domains such that when the protein interaction domains sort of join together, they force the 2 halves of insulin in the right configuration. So that's an entirely novel approach that I don't think anybody else has tried yet. Could potentially make it much easier to produce insulin. So it's more of a 21st century version of insulin production rather than a 1970s version of insulin production, which is what a lot of the big pharma companies are still working with.
Biohackers are not intimidated by great challenges. They are resourceful and determined to find better ways to make insulin for everyone.
I'm Anthony DeFranco, and we're here in Counterculture Labs, where I'm working on the Open Insulin project with a group of other members of the lab and volunteers.
Biohackers like Anthony are mounting a scientific assault on big pharma's practices in order to disrupt the tight control of the insulin market.
I've been a member of Counterculture Labs here for several years. Since the founding, I've been interested in biology and hacking for quite a bit of time before that. This is where it all came together for me, and I also have type 1 diabetes. I've had it since 2005.
For Anthony, the world did not stop when he was diagnosed with diabetes. For Anthony, the world had to move faster to come up with better treatments for those who depend on insulin to live. Anthony is propelling that movement, and he wants to give free access to any new discovery in the form of open insulin.